Hi, everyone, and happy 2025 Women's History Month. I am honored to sit in this space with all of you, and thank you for everyone who's listening in. We have great identities, roles, responsibility, titles here. So I would love everyone who's in this space to please introduce themselves. Possibly the organization or institution that you represent, and also why you wanted to be a part of this conversation today. Abby, let's start with you. Hi, Abby.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be a part of today's broadcast. My name is Abby Kim. I'm currently a junior in high school. I play competitive field hockey, and I'm from California. And field hockey is very much an uncommon sport here in California. It's very much an East Coast sport, so there is definitely a big discrepancy between opportunities for athletes, especially playing field hockey as a female. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
And why did you want to be a part of this? Because I know you have a couple of projects going on. So
Yeah, I've been at the forefront of a lot of mental health struggles and haven't, had the outlets for support, and I haven't had the best support system, particularly looking at my own club sport and my field hockey team. And I've seen a lot of my upperclassmen really struggle with mental health. They've either had to take a break due to the lack of support, or they've just completely been burnt out by, I don't know, the external pressures, I would say, to the extent where they can't even talk about the sport. They do not want to be associated at all or have any connections with, playing field hockey, and kind of seeing that perspective, and also at the same time going through those mental health disparities were really challenging enough for me to want to step in and see, are there different outlets that I could reach out to, and if there are, like Athletes for Hope, I would love to advocate for the cause and um, let other people know that they're not alone, especially as high schoolers.
perfect. And that's why you are in this space right now. So continue doing what you're doing. Thank you. We're going to go to from high school student athlete to the former collegiate student athlete. So, Kelsey, please introduce yourself, the organization you represent, and why you wanted to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, so first of all, Abby, it's awesome to meet you. Thanks for sharing. My name is Kelsey, and I played softball at North Carolina State University. I'm representing Athlete Talk, which is a mental health and wellness platform. But I wanted to be in this space because obviously, as a woman growing up in sports, they just played a huge role in developing the person that I am. And when I played collegiate softball, I ended up having to retire early due to injury. And I just think it's really important for teammates, whether it's the women kind of around us, to rally around each other. And I had that in my life. And so I just want to scale that to be that person for other people as I head into a career in athlete mental health through social work and different things. And so I'm just really passionate about, kind of like Abby said, plugging into every space possible. And I think the best way to kind of provide support directly to athletes and teams and things like that is to work together. And so I'm really grateful to be here and kind of just scale the support that was poured into me by some really incredible women and incredible people throughout my athletic journey.
Beautiful. And you're walking the talk because you are part of every conversation that we offer and engage in AMHA, Athlete Mental Health Week. So thank you for everything you do, Kelsey.
Thank you.
Um, to the next level, we have the professional athlete, current Bella. Please introduce yourself with all the checklists.
All right. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm Bella Vargas. I'm originally from a small border town called Brownsville, Texas. And then I started off my powerlifting career back in high school at Los Fresnos High School, and then got recruited at the University of Texas at Austin to be a competitor there as well. So I competed all through high school, collegiate level. I also got my master's at UT in social work and finished off my career my college career, but I'm still competing to this day as an individual lifter. So currently, I'm an individual power lifter. I'm in the 57 equipped division. I've competed regional, national, and the world stage. in powerlifting. So I'm very proud of those accomplishments. But today, the reason also I'm representing Athletes for Hope. I'm the digital marketing manager. But the main reason why I'm so excited to be here is I just come from a very strong background of women from my family. I'm on this panel to represent my mom. My mom is my biggest supporter, number one fan. And I also come from a divorced family. So I come from a single parent household, and just my biggest role model has always been a woman, and everything that she does, and playing both roles and both parts. So I look up to her in that, and I try doing that in that type of like nurture care in like my powerlifting team. So from what my mom's taught me, and instill that in my powerlifting team in college, and then representing also young girls. I love that young girls to this day from my hometown or like in the collegiate level ask me for advice, tips, or pointers, whether that be a cultural thing or like specific advice with the sport itself. And so I'm just here to be a voice for young girls that are interested in powerlifting, and also helping amplify their voices as well on their platforms. Yeah.
So beautiful. And from one Latina to another, I'm also just so inspired how proud you are of your culture and that you always bring that in as well. So thank you. So the next we have is the former professional athlete and the current coach, Kendra. Can you please introduce yourself? And thank you for being here.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kendra Coleman. I am a retired track and field professional athlete. I went to 3 Olympic trials. I ran the 800 meters. I also went to the University of Texas at Austin, so Hook and Bella. And currently I do a lot of things. I am the program manager. I also represent Athletes for Hope in the CHAMPS program. And I'm also sitting as the Athletes Commission Vice Chair for USA Track and Field, where we advocate for athletes' rights. So, I wear a lot of roles. I'm also a coach at a D3 school named the University of St. Thomas here in Houston, Texas, where I live. And I have been involved in sports since I could walk. I believe my first soccer team was when I was 5 years old, and I was so good they had to put me with the boys. So I have been pushing boundaries and always stayed true to being a female athlete since I could walk. So I really want to be here in this conversation because I offer so many different perspectives. But really, as I have lived life through sports as a woman of color, I've realized that this is more than sports and it's bigger than you. So when I was on that journey trying to find out, I guess I could run professionally, but what does this mean about my purpose? Um, Sports transcends everything, and you can really bring your personality, your purpose. You're helping others, you're inspiring generations of female athletes. So I really tried to find my purpose in giving back. And I really tried my best to advocate for women in sports and women of color in sports. So that's really important causes to me. And currently, as a coach, I try my best to give mental health tips to my athletes because I've been there, done that. I know what it feels like to suffer a loss or a bad race. So I try my best to push mental health wherever I am, specifically for female athletes.
I already have so many follow-up questions. We're going to stay on the introduction. Beautiful Gina, and thank you, Kendra. Beautiful Gina, please introduce yourself and all the beneath.
Oh gosh, I'm just a mom and now a grandma. But 3 girls that I've raised. 2 of the 3 were and are athletes. Katie Meyer, who our foundation is named after, Katie Save. So I'm a co-founder of that. Katie died by suicide. March of 2022. She played soccer at Stanford. She was a goalkeeper. And we're doing a lot in the foundation in her memory and her honor, and working on a lot of legislation. We just had a law here passed in California, Katie Meyer's Law, which we can talk about a little later. I don't want to get too into it now. But that's been, a passion project for us, kind of finding purpose through the pain, with her death. And then I have my youngest daughter plays soccer at UCLA. She's just starting out, just a freshman. So I do think I have a lot of knowledge and some advice there as far as the parenting part of it goes. So yeah, I mean, I love being part of these conversations. I love being part of Athletes for Hope and forming our alliance together with our foundation and you guys, and educating myself, always learning. I love to hear from young people. So thanks for having me on, whatever I can contribute.
Yeah, no, we love having you in this space. So thank you for all of that, all of the introductions. And on the topic of kind of coaches, parents, Abby, I'm turning to you
Mm-hmm.
because your voice represents so many important individuals in the space of athlete mental health. And so I wonder, as you're sitting in a space with coaches, professional athletes, former collegiate athletes, a parent, I'm wondering, what role do you experience currently in 2025 that coaches and parents specifically, and even teachers hold in either promoting or harming your mental health as a female athlete?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I feel like as a high schooler, especially junior year in high school, where it's like peak recruiting season for me right now, I have, my coaches are really involved. I would just start off right off the bat by saying they play a massive role in the whole process, both me doing academics and, playing as an athlete. I would say coaches, teachers, and parents can be our biggest advocates and at times can unintentionally add pressure that can harm us. I would say I've experienced both, unfortunately. And when they check in, like coaches, when they check in on how we're doing mentally, not just physically and academically, it really does make a difference. Of course, with the circumstances with mental health becoming less stigmatized, it's more normal for my coaches to check in and have those one-on-one conversations with us to make sure that we're doing okay. I unfortunately had a friend pass away from suicide as well. So especially in my club, that's become more prevalent, and making sure that it's we're heard, our voices are heard, and we're not alone, and we don't feel like we have to seclude ourselves or isolate ourselves from everyone else. And I feel like as a high schooler, just because high school, I don't know, it's definitely mental health is more stigmatized. It's, if anything, I feel like people make jokes about mental health more just because they think, oh, it's a sign of weakness. Not a lot of high schoolers are talking out about, their mental well-being. I've definitely experienced that because I felt like, or I've been told at times from coaches that it's considered to show like weakness in front of, recruiting coaches and athletes at D1. Colleges. And so I've definitely also been told to kind of like a contradiction in a way, to express our feelings, yet at the same time know when we need to express our feelings. And that rubs me in a negative way. I feel like I should always be able to tell a trusted adult or parent or coach that I'm not really feeling well right now. I don't want to push myself. I don't know what could happen if I do. And then being told at the same time that I have to push forward is something that I think has become increasingly common, at least in, what I see in my community, where kids are constantly pushing themselves, especially the student athletes. Because, I feel like as an athlete in high school, you're always having this go, go, go mentality. And so coaches and parents definitely support us and they want to push us, I feel like, always to the best we can. But I feel like there are limitations to that. And surpassing those limitations are really harmful. I've experienced that with injury. I've been told to play through really tough injuries. And a pivotal example that I can bring up is I was getting ready for the Junior Olympic qualifiers, and I tore 3 ligaments. And I've had a coach tell me to put Voltaren on it and just to get back out onto the field and play through it. And I did exactly that because I felt if I didn't, then I would be, losing some sort of like self-value or face for myself. And it did more harm than good 100%. And I feel like a lot of students do go through kind of those pressures, especially from adults and coaches, because the power dynamic is just so incredibly steep. So yeah, I would say that it's definitely a double-sided sword. But yeah, that was my personal experience with it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I always love how you bring your story into answers and examples. And thank you for the reminder of the responsibility parents and coaches have to actually ensure that they have those mental health check-ins. And the story that you represent, it's been so common within the college system, but now that it's actually going down to the high school system, it is a red flag. So thank you for voicing that. And so I'm going to turn to the student athlete role here, Kelsey, and turning away from the responsibility of the teachers and the coaches and how it can affect us. It's a lot of responsibility that you have as an athlete yourself, and specifically in college where the next step is into the real world. How was it balancing your academics, your athletics, and your personal life during this time as a athlete, as a female, as a human?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, Abby, thank you for sharing that. It was really difficult. I definitely had an added element of difficulty in managing that because I suffered a head injury, and that was the reason that I had left my sport. And so kind of with that, I had a series of head injuries even throughout high school. And so it made the recovery very long and very difficult. And so even part of my decision into medically retiring was number one, the fact that my symptoms had gotten so severe, even socially and emotionally, when you go through a head injury, and some of that impulsivity that comes, or even just the mood swings and kind of just a lack of control over myself. And so in terms of academics, I had been a straight A student my whole life. Like I had been always coached to be student first, athlete second, and was really involved even in my college with like a research job and an honors program, and pouring a lot into my academics because I was studying social work. It was really important to me. And so when this injury happened, I started failing my classes. I struggled with just a lot. That balance of feeling like my identity was lost, but also my abilities and also my personality and my ability to even just process two invisible injuries at the same time, one of them being a physical head injury and the other being the emotional aspect of just losing your sport and no longer having that day-to-day feedback and that day-to-day camaraderie with your teammates and not really getting the support in that area. And so mental health wise, it was really isolated and difficult to navigate. And even just comparing my journey as an abrupt ending student athlete to seeing my teammates that struggled, even when they were predicted to be done with their sport and their eligibility was exhausted and still really struggling, it definitely made me aware of the fact that it is kind of a universal experience of feeling like that identity is lost. My academics were kind of going downhill. I needed support from other people. And so realizing that was going to take a while to build back up just a little bit at a time. I think there's a little bit of comfort that comes with knowing that it's kind of a universal experience. And so knowing that it is difficult to manage classes, and for whatever reason, your day is stacked with an 8-hour schedule. And now all of a sudden I only have one appointment to go to, which is a doctor's appointment, and I can't even be on time. And so you kind of feel this weird pull, and I'm wondering if some of the other former athletes feel that as well, of just you now have this internal stress of needing to do your own schedule and needing to take care of your own finances and the job, that piece of it. And so I think kind of moving into my next steps, I at first had written sports off, didn't want to do anything with athletics, and then really started to lean into my why and my purpose and how do I become a resource that I wish I had or that I did have, and I want to scale that and continue to be that for other people. And so I think just taking it one step at a time ended up leading me into a Master of Social Work program, which I'm in now, work with athletes and teams, which I'll likely be doing after I graduate this May. And so really just kind of finding that why throughout that low point of the process was really helpful to step into the real world, even though I had no idea where I would go and what I was doing.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing. And I just want to give space to the parent, the former professional athlete, the coach, if anyone wants to chime in at any time and add any or ask any additional questions, please do so. I'm just going to say that it's so empowering to sit here in this space as an athlete who has felt so alone. And I remember, Gina, when the news came out about Katie, and I thought I was alone. suffering, and so there is so much just sharing. So on top or on that note, Bella, I'm going to look to you as the current professional athlete in this space, and I want to just ask around any advice that you might have to people who are looking for resources, who are in the middle of their sport, and the demand that it takes of time and effort, but how can you in 2025, in the midst of your career, also prioritize your well-being if it is resources or lack of? What would you say within this space that we're in right now?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna touch a little bit of like my transition from like post graduation to like now. So even though a transition out of like a competitive sport can already be challenging in itself, especially like when you're adjusting to like a new phase in your life. So for me, I'm starting out this new job, and so while I'm not like officially retired from sports, I'm just navigating this shift right now between maintaining my athletic career and also focusing on my career, which is just a new challenge in itself. So one of the toughest parts has been finding this balance for me and like what resources are out there as well. So as someone for me, as someone who struggles with anxiety and also depression, but I don't really like to say the word depression. I like to call it my buzzing bees. And how do I keep that buzz low? And so I make conscious effort to stay grounded. I've learned that life can be pretty overwhelming at times, both in work, personal life, even like going to the gym. But my mom has always taught me the more you do, the more you get done. And so this type of mindset has always helped me like to keep moving forward. But I've also learned that it's okay to say no to people sometimes, or just taking a pause on things when you don't need to get them done immediately. So a way I manage my mental health, I focus on activities that genuinely make me happy and help me stay calm, whether that's dancing, that's doing arts and crafts. I also am a seamstress, so I love to sew, or just staying active through running or skating. So I do the things that just continue to bring me joy. But and so like if I can't make like a main workout, I just like love being outside in nature. That helps keep my mind calm. Just like even touching the grass or like laying down on the grass or seeing the sunset just makes me so happy, especially that Texas sunset. But I'll say like for resources, I just keep going back to my coaches. Like I love that my coaches are still pretty open on the Longhorn powerlifting team for me to always go back to them. So I always rely like so you need a support system. So I know that sometimes can be hard as maybe a high school athlete, like as like Abby shared, like maybe having like that support system, like who can you trust to be your support system that you can rely on and go back to even in college. And so I've that's always been in my mind since in high school. Like I want to make sure I'm close to this coach so that way in case I ever need anything, but it's never in case I need anything. I genuinely wanted that relationship with my coach. And he was always a father figure to me in high school. And to this day, he's still like a father figure to me. And then in college, I love that I can always go back to my coaches and for free like workout plans. Cause like that, like I don't have all the finances in the world to pay for my equipment. I've always had to fundraise. I've always had to like like I said, just fundraise mainly. And so it's nice that my coaches can still support me with equipment and training plans. That way I can still continue to be a competitive athlete, and that's hard. So all that to say, I just want to make sure that I just want to advise y'all to always have those support systems, because then you can rely on those people to support you in the long run. I'm already out of college, and it's so beautiful that I can still go to these people and still ask them for support. That way I can continue thriving in the sport. And also, it's nice that I don't just talk about my sport with my coaches. I can talk about them about my personal things too. And I have such a great coach that is like, okay, Bella, seems like a lot of things are overwhelming you right now, and you got a lot going on. We got to adjust and change up maybe your workout plan, or you know what, maybe this week you got to take a break and just really focus on yourself. So I would encourage y'all too, like really, I guess, learn more about your coach, because I personally never liked coaches that were just keep going, keep going, keep going. I mean, there's the good coaches that are like keep going, but in a positive way. But then there's also that negative of like where they're not really focused on your mental health and your struggles. Like they just tell you to keep going because they want you to get that goal because that's going to help the team, but that's not helping you. So you want a coach that's also going to be there for things that are behind the scenes too, and not just like what's out there in front in your sport. So yeah.
Great. No, this is so good. I love that you bring up great tangible examples of ways that people can help themselves, but also approaches in terms of and almost criterias for coaches in terms of being that resource if that's where you get your support from. So thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
Bella. And I don't even use the word depression. I like to use the word deep rest in terms of depression. Like that's when I need deep rest. So what was your word? You said
Yeah, mine. When I would go to counseling in my collegiate career, we had to come up with a term, and I just loved buzzing bees. Buzzing bees just helped me keep that in mind of like, okay, all the bees are going crazy in my head, and I don't want that to overpower me and overtake my mind. And so, how can we keep that buzz low? But it's not this fake happiness that's outside. Like I still have a genuine smile on my face, and I'm still doing the work, and I'm still doing the sport, but I'm not gonna just keep like being sad all the time and show that to people. Like I can, so I have that mindset of like, how can I keep that buzz low? That way that sadness isn't just pouring in all areas of my life. And so, yeah, buzzing bees is what I called it.
no, and taking responsibility. So thank you for sharing. Kendra, I'm going over to you. I don't know if you're wearing your former professional hat or coach. I think you're wearing both. You said a lot of things. You mentioned sports transcends, and I really like also your focus right now and current while you were doing sports, giving back. And right now, as a coach, also giving mental health tips. So I'm thinking if you can use your lived experience as you're doing in your coach role and speak to even the people in this room right now. We have a parent, we have a high school athlete, current athlete, former. So just how, when we think about life after sports and we think about our mental, our emotional state, but also for the youth right now, I'm wondering what's advice you would give your younger self? What's advice you would give current athletes right now in this space? I would love to just hear, yeah, a little bit knowledge.
Yeah, that seems like a lot, but I totally get where you're coming from. It is a lot. As an athlete, we take on a lot. So I think my advice would be first and foremost, whatever level you're at, just know that sports is going to come to an end one day. A version of yourself can never exist forever. And so I think LeBron James said it the best. I am more than an athlete. There's so much more to you other than your sport. And I always encourage athletes of all levels to pour into that side because it's needed. It's necessary. For you to have a long career would be great. And you can always be an athlete, in some capacity. And I never want to take that away. So, for example, I was a professional track and field athlete. And when I retire, that doesn't mean I'm never going to run again, right? Or I'm never going to be in any type of athlete again. I will still be able to run, but maybe not competitively, but maybe competitively for myself. So I never want to take the title of like the athlete away, but I do always want other people to explore other sides of themselves. The best thing, I have a great support system as well. My mother as well, Bella, was a big part of my journey. And even when I was going through middle school and high school, I was the best. She always was like, well, how about we do soccer? How about we do dance? And I actually did dance the first year in my college as well. There's always so many levels and layers. I feel like we're all onions. And so if you can pull out and tug different layers at different times of your life, for me, I was able to run free. I was able to compete free. In college, of course, there was pressure to perform. I'm at the University of Texas and the camera's in your face and we're at the national championships and it's stressful. But I was able to run free because I was like, well, I like doing track, but this isn't Kendra. I don't tie up my identity into this. And if I drop the baton, get last place, there's still tomorrow. And I'm going to maybe go to soccer practice or maybe I'll dance. And so my mom always made sure that there was options on the table. And every time I had a bad race, I would call her, I would be crying. She'd be like, well, if you want to stop, I'll come get you. That's what she said. If you want to stop, I'm going to come get you. So always have those options laid out, whether you're a parent, coach, teacher, whether you're an athlete. Start thinking about what's next. While I was in college and as a professional, I decided to get my master's. While I was traveling all over the world, I would go compete in Italy and France, and I would stay on the computer so I could get my master's. I was also doing internships in off season. I was able to do some internships at my old university. I was able to shadow someone at ESPN. I was doing all of these things because I was thinking sports is going to end one day, and then what? And a lot of times I see a lot of athletes, particularly in the professional realm, that don't know what to do. The transition phase is hard because there hasn't been preparation. But just like an athlete prepares for a game or a competition, you need to prepare for life after sports. And I think once you find your niche, once you find your hobbies and you put yourself out there, you reach out to your resources and say, look, I'm looking for an internship. Maybe I want to be a doctor. Maybe I want to be a lawyer. Is it okay if I go shadow you? Or can I just give you a 30-minute call just to see how you like your job? Really push yourself to explore everything the world has to offer. And I think in that way, we can prepare for life after sports, but also main key is enjoy life after sports. There's so much enjoyment that we have doing our sport, running, jumping, all of the things. And I think a lot of athletes can look life after sports in a negative light because they're like, there's no way I'm going to match this happiness, right? But there is. There's something else that you're good at. There's another calling and purpose for you. So again, I encourage you to do your research, put yourself out there, use your resources, and that's always a good recipe for a transition phase.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I know I think Bella was going to say something, and if not, I do have a follow-up. Yeah, go ahead, Bella.
Kendra, I'm so glad you brought up the topic about athletic identity because just even away from school and what I've gained from it, but just my mom's piece of advice. Like if you were to go on a porch and then there was like, for me, for example, in my sport, I wear big glittery cheer bows. So for Gina, Abby, and Kelsey, in my sport, I wear these big glittery cheer bows when I compete. My mom's always told me if there was one cheer bow out on that porch and someone were to see that bow, that's not going to represent you. You have so many bows in your life that, and like, I mean, I know the metaphor is more like hats. Everyone owns different hats. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so glad you touched on that, Kendra, because people think like I'm so stuck. Like I need to just solely like, this is my whole life. I am a football player. I am a volleyball player, but it's like, no, there's so much more to you and so much more to that athletic identity. And like how you said, you just really got to put yourself out there. But I always liked that little visual for me about that one bow doesn't represent you on the porch. You have a billion bows out there. So own them and just have fun with it too.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's some type of unsaid pressure and idea that maybe some coaches will instill, or just other athletes kind of have this feeling of like, if you're not all in, that means you won't succeed. Like if you're not 100% athlete identity, and that's just not true. Like I'm here to defuse that myth, because there's just no way that my creator created me just to run around in circles. Like I don't buy that or believe that. So there's just no way that I'm made just to do that, right? So I encourage athletes to like, don't get tied up in like the 24/7 athlete identity is the only way I'm going to succeed. Like rest, recovery, and doing other things is crucial to your success as well as an athlete.
Yeah. And so like the coaches, teachers, parents, I mean, Abby, you said it too. I mean, they play a huge role like shaping our mental health in us as an athlete too. And so, Gina, when you said I'm just the parent, I'm like, no, you are not just the parent. You play such a huge role to your kids, and maybe not even just your kids, like maybe their friends as well, like on those teams. And so I would encourage you to like shift away from that language too of like, I'm just the parent. No, like you go above and beyond. And it's so supportive. It means a lot when a parent is supportive to your sport, just like how Kendra mentioned how her mom is like, hey, if I need to pick you up, I need to pick you up. We're not going to keep doing this, you know? So, yeah, that's all I got to say on that. And I'll pass it over to you, Mina Marie.
Thank you. This is like the technology when you think you're unmuted. We're going to stay on Gina, who raised 3 female athletes, and holding Katie just in this space that it is March. It is actually March. So um, there's different approaches we can take, because I know that, Gina, just by your actions, you're not just a parent, because what you mentioned, Katie's Law. But I do wonder if you want to start off with anything you want to share to a parent who's listening of how they may better support their female daughters, or just their children in general within the mental health space, now that you've been such an advocate and an inspiring, outspoken person in this space right now. What would you say right now? Yeah, what would you say?
I think as a parent, I think, you go back when your kids were little and you were putting them in sports. And like with our first one, with our oldest daughter, I say you throw everything against the wall and kind of see what sticks, what they're interested in. And she was interested in everything, anything and everything from, horseback riding to volleyball to soccer to ice skating. Literally. And I think it's your first kid. So you're just like, oh, this is just fun. This is so fun. And I think that's the key, is like keeping it fun, because it seems like at some point, if it's not fun anymore, whether that's high school, it's got to stay fun. And I think as a parent, you don't want to be the one adding pressure. They have enough pressure. There's enough pressure with juggling, academics and their coaches and their schedule. I think as a parent, you are just purely there for support and love. And I love watching you play. That's my favorite expression, is just, I love watching you play. I love watching you have fun out there. I love watching you play free out there. And I think we talked about, someone mentioned playing free is so important. I think that was Kendra. Because then if you're not having fun anymore. Katie's situation was very unique. I always say this, soccer was her happy place. There were no issues with soccer. That was her happy place. Her teammates, her coaches, they were wonderful. She was going through a disciplinary action at school, so an administrative action. Katie had no glaring red flags, no mental illness history. She had something what a therapist has named acute stress reaction, which can happen to anybody, can happen to anybody, right? The smartest, most independent, happiest, boldest, seems very strong. So her situation was a little different, but just saying, like, she was carrying something very heavy, for like a 6-month period, going through this disciplinary process at her school, and really didn't tell anyone about it too much. Oh gosh, sorry, my dog's running in. Didn't really talk about it, try to carry it. So I think carrying a heavy weight like that, and I always say, like, when you're carrying that heavy backpack, sometimes you need to unload that backpack a little bit, right? So whether that's talking to therapists, trusted adult, your coaches, your people, your support staff. Katie did not talk to my husband and I about it, her siblings. We had no clue what she was going through. She, I think, probably was a little embarrassed, a little ashamed, whatever she was going through, and thought she could handle it, being a young adult. But I think these young adults, they need that extra guidance and support. They need that someone to lean on. So that's what we're pushing for with our law that we put in place here in California, Katie Meyer's law, which is having someone on the outside, a trusted adult, we call it a designated advisor, I think is the language that's in the actual law. And that person, it's not necessarily a parent or guardian. We know not everybody has the best relationship sometimes with a parent, but it could be an old coach, it could be a youth pastor, it could be a teacher, and anybody that they trust, a sibling, an aunt, an uncle, trusted adult, someone on the outside that would support them through disciplinary process, any administrative conflict, academic probation, Title IX violations. I mean, anything they're going through, because that's just like in their world. That could be earth shattering for them, you know?
Absolutely.
So anyway, it's just, I think our high schoolers, our college students, pro athletes, and I think even Bella said this, you need your people, you need your support crew. Who are those people in your life? Who can you turn to? Who can you open up to? So important. As a parent, going back to being parent, it's just the love, just like keeping it fun, putting them in good situations as they're growing up, finding those good coaching staffs. I don't know. It's hard. It's not easy. It's hard, but yeah, the love and support are the biggest things.
Beautiful. Katie Meyer's law, that is something that would have even impacted my time at Cal. So I'm so proud of you guys for pushing that through, and thank you. Abby, I'm turning to you, and I wonder, as you've listened to all of these wonderful identities, and there's so much we can touch in on. There's social media, there's intersectionalities, stigma around mental health and females. I wonder, do you have any questions for any of the panelists that you would like to ask?
I think hearing everyone's advice and own stories, that, it's just in and of itself is so empowering. I can say, as a high schooler, from a high school perspective, hearing that Katie Meyer's law is getting pushed is absolutely amazing. I think on my side of it, my parents, I can resonate 100%. They're really incredibly supportive. They never, I'm the first child to go through, this athletic journey. And so anything that they can do to support me is just what they're all in for. If I suddenly have a disinterest in the sport that I'm playing, you always take a step back and reevaluate everything. And having, of course, your support system and making sure that you have fun while you play your sport. I mean, I can totally agree and be in accord with, having field hockey for me be a sport that I kind of go to when academics get too stressful, or when life in general gets too stressful. And I found that when I have the most fun, I play the best. And so I always try to, like, my parents always tell me, like, just have fun when you play, even if it's like, I don't know, like national selections, and there's the rows of coaches there. If you have fun and you have a smile on your face, you can only play the best. And so that mentality definitely shifted everything for me. I think as a young adult and young high schooler, there's so many burgeoning pressures being put on you by, whether it be by yourself, your coaches, your peers. But at the end of the day, right, I think Kendra related to that too, is your athletic identity is just one hat or one bow that in your coalition, in your collection. And that's so empowering to hear, because when you're doing sports, it's like all you see and all you do is, oh, I have to get committed. Oh, I have to go into the next step in order for me to play pro. And having that mindset is so narrow-minded, and it's really hard to diverge from, that very narrow-minded mindset. And I mean, I don't think I have any like specific questions, but I can definitely say hearing everyone's stories is just so incredibly empowering. I've definitely gone through my ups and downs. I've seen my peers go through their ups and downs, and it hasn't been pretty. And I think I mentioned being in California and playing field hockey. I think, just to put in perspective, there may be like 500 clubs in the East Coast that do field hockey and have established clubs, but there's only really 5 to 6 really well-established clubs in here in California. And having those people you can really rely on, whether that be, your mentors and your peers or your parents, is so important and crucial. I think a lot of people overlook that and really just put a lot of emphasis and stress on, your coaches or your coaching figures are your main source of like advice and just your what you can be who you can be dependent on. And I feel like that's true to an extent, but having a broader and building your own and cultivating your own support system is just so important, and making sure that you're so transparent about how you're feeling and what you're going through. I definitely can speak on my part that I've definitely held a lot of things back from my peers and my parents because from what I've heard, it's these difficulties build grit. And while that's true, I feel like it's definitely not a weakness or a um, sign of like a low light to speak out about how you're feeling. And just hearing everyone's personal experience and advice really just opened so many doors in my mind for me to be like, oh, this is, as an athlete, hearing all these people being on a professional level, it's truly amazing to see like, okay, I'm not alone in this situation. I'm not navigating everything by myself. I do have these outlets, and I do have these people that I know I can be super dependent on and not have to bubble it all into myself until it all kind of explodes. And that's just incredibly empowering. So I just wanted to thank everyone for being so open and sharing the experiences and the advice as seasoned athletes and parents and guidance. So yeah.
Beautiful. You do bring up the continuous like topic that we've all discussed and brought up, is that importance of having a support network. And so a role that we haven't really into yet is the coach, Kendra. And so I wonder, from a coach's perspective, speaking to other coaches, what would you say if there's a coach listening right now in terms of intersectionality, with race, with gender? We also we bring in mental health, we bring in social media now. Do you have any advice to them?
Yeah, it's definitely a hard time to live in right now. There is a lot of distraction, and the reason why I became a coach actually was because I've had great coaches and I've had really bad coaches before, and I think we all can relate to that. Now, when I say bad coach, I don't mean like they're a bad person, and I never will think they're a bad person. I think I experienced a person that was going through something that should have been pulled away from young athletes at the time until they resolved their issue. A lot of coaches will project, will get frustrated whether the team's not winning, whether their salary is on the line, whether they're having problems at home. So they're human. They're human. They're not saved from the traumas of the world. Everyone goes through things, and I think that we put a lot of pressure on teachers, parents, coaches to not be human and just be on all the time, and that's not the reality. So if you are a coach and you are listening, I would say you should definitely invest in mental health care for yourself. That's something that I take very seriously. I was privileged enough to have a sports psychiatrist as a professional athlete, and that really helped not only my relationship with the sport, but my relationship with my coach, because we struggled a lot. We would bump heads, and I would always be like, I don't agree with that workout. Because remember, I'm a pro at this time, right? So I'm like, I'm a grown adult. I have say in this. And we would constantly argue or like discuss things, and we had to pull a sports psychiatrist in that really helped our dialogue and get to where we both wanted the same thing, and that was me to make the Olympic team, to win. And so having someone there to navigate those conversations with was super important. Now, if you're a college coach or a high school coach, using professionals are key to communicating with athletes. You do have experience as a coach. You probably have a wealth of knowledge as a coach, but one thing you don't have is the professional title of a psychologist, psychiatrist, or therapist. Leave those professional titles and those duties to those professionals. The college I work at, we're privileged enough to have a therapist and sports psychologist that we send our athletes to. Now, do I send my athletes to that therapist or psychologist for every situation? No. But when I feel like I have seen enough signs where I'm like, okay, this is no longer a conversation that I can help you with. How about we go together to make you an appointment, right? And the main part about my experience as an athlete was I never wanted to feel like a number and a body and I was just totally discarded when my eligibility was up or when I left the school. And that's how I felt with my bad coaches. I felt like I was invisible. And my goal as a coach now is to make sure that my athletes are seen, heard, and they are humanized. They are not just a number. They are not just an athlete on the team that create results for our university. Like, they're a human. Sports are supposed to be fun, but after sports, they will grow up and be a citizen of this world. So instead of focusing on their sports ability, why don't I focus on making them a good person or helping them become a better person? And that's my goal. I have all ranges of talent on my team right now. I have girls that will never make nationals. I have guys that are going to run at nationals and maybe go to Olympic trials. And I treat them the same. I give them the attention that they need no matter what level they're on. And I think that's so crucial for coaches to get, is to make the athlete feel like, wow, like coach cares about me, or wow, I didn't even notice coach noticed my new hairdo, or wow, coach asked me about my new spikes. Something like that can just trigger an athlete to be like, wow, like I feel seen, I feel cared about, and I'm not just out here doing a job for somebody else.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kendra. That's like a mic drop. And that's kind of as we're wrapping up and wanting to turn towards more hope and future. Just thank you for reiterating that, because that for me represents hope and future. So, Kelsey, I'm turning to you as you are taking your master's in social work, hence future. And so I wonder, as you're stepping into this role and you're on this exciting path and you're also working with Athlete Talk, I wonder what's one actionable change that you have in your mind that you would like to see happen within sports and specifically for female athletes in the next coming years.
Yeah, wow. I'm just so taken aback by all of your stories and sharing. So I feel like I can't articulate that. I'm really grateful for all of you sharing your perspective. I think as a female athlete, I would love to see more invested into life after sport. And as women, they're just factual wise, like there are less professional opportunities. Even in the professional opportunities, you have to have potentially another job or something else to supplement. And I think there's a huge drop off in resources for a lot of female athletes after college or after high school, whatever that looks like. And so I think that life after sports piece and getting coaches on board with it to see it not as something that's going to hold them back or distract them, but something that's really going to propel them to run free or play freely. It's a win-win to be helping people with their identities outside of sport. And even in my work outside of Athlete Talk, just as kind of a speaker and in general, like identity, how do you apply that? Your internal characteristics. There's so many transferable skills that you develop in your sport. And so I think having programming, hiring more staff if possible, or yeah, looping in. I love the way you said, like, let the therapist and the psychologist take on that role. And so allow an outside person to help female athletes transition out of their sport. And we have to provide that resource for them and like continue to advocate for that to be a priority and not just the resources when they're an athlete. And like you said, then they're just a number. And once they're done, they're done. So I think the life after sports piece and the transition piece, I would just love to see more investment in it and more conversation about it and real like programming within it, not just conversation about it, but like truly guiding somebody along that journey. Because even every one of us mentioned, I want to support the resources I didn't have. And it's like, let's create real significant, tangible resources and partnership for that.
Beautiful. That is great. And I'm just thinking about the contrast here where we have Abby with the high school role and the pressure of getting into schools and the pressure of making it. And here we are kind of on the other side talking about and advocating for more the holistic being. So I'm going to look to you, Bella. Is there anything you would want to add on this topic as we're wrapping up? What gives you hope for the future of women in sports and mental health?
Yeah, I think what gives me hope for the future women in sports and mental health is just seeing this growing sense of community and support among female athletes. So I've noticed that there's been this shift towards women, like by empowering each other, especially when it comes to mental health. And I just believe that when we just continue supporting one another, whether that's sharing our struggles, offering encouragement, or even celebrating like one another's victories, I think we're going to create definitely a stronger and more inclusive environment in the sport. And just I know you probably heard the phrase, but like girls, like being a girl's girl, but that's kind of where this idea of girls supporting girls just gives me so much hope. It's just about lifting each other up and not competing with one another in negative ways. So just sharing these experiences and being open more about your mental health. And I think we can just break more stigmas and encourage more women to speak up and seek help and prioritize their well-being as well. So I was also going to share, I was going to share one more thing about that, about like an example I have, like when I was in college, I remember I was giving fist bumps to all the girls, like, you know what, guys, like, girls, good luck, y'all got this. And what hurt me at that moment is when the girls were just making these really mean competitive looks, like, no, I'm gonna beat you on that platform. And so I don't know, I've always been the type of athlete, like, no matter what, it's anyone's game. But at the same time, I'm still going to be supportive, even to my competitors. I want to show that love, pour that energy out, and I just know great energy is going to come back my way. So always be kind, always be positive, like, oh, and care for others' safety as well. I've always cared about others' safety in the sport. I don't want anyone to be disqualified, injured, or hurt as much as you want to beat that other person. But at the end of the day, they're human. And at the end of the day, they put in just as much work as you did too. Less or more does not matter. Y'all are in that same space. So how can we uplift one another to be powerful together in that space? So always be the kind one in that space, y'all. Is what I'll say.
Talking about power from the powerlifter herself. Thank you, Bella.
Thank you.
Gina, I'm looking at you and we're thinking about the future, and we are in the midst of great change, hence your law. So I'm wondering, what other changes do you think need to happen within specifically youth and collegiate space to ensure that our female athletes do get the necessary support that they need? And how possibly could we in this community continue to support your work in this moment of change?
Mm-hmm. I definitely think the more the resources, kind of what Kelsey was saying, I think there's a lot of awareness, and awareness is wonderful. We're breaking the stigma. We're trying to change the stigma. So I think having those college and pro athletes starting to speak out, the Simone Biles, I mean, very recently, Sydney LaRue just came out, and these are role models that are saying like, hey, I need to take a step back. I'm struggling. I think those role models and our younger athletes, high schoolers and college students hear that. That's what's breaking the stigma. It's starting to change. People are opening up. They're realizing that their physical health and, is just as important as their mental health, right? That ACL that you can see with the brace on, but our mental health, I know it's unseen, and that's been the hardest part of it, but it is a daily thing. Mental health is every day. We all have mental health, all of us, every day, right? So I love all that. I think the legislation is important. Taking action is so important. So all the legislation we're doing, I think just like CPR training and first aid training is mandated, I do think we need some kind of mental health first aid kit or training for coaches that is mandated. I think for peer-to-peer, athlete to athlete is mandate. I think there needs to be more training. So like listening to Kendra, I love all that. She knows like, hey, I'm not an expert. There are therapists to go to, but for those coaches to have some baseline training, like just not QPR code, like check the boxes, but like, the 2 hour, like you get with the CPR, like some role playing, some looking for the, questions, what are we looking for? What do I need to do? What are the next steps? I think coaches want to help, but they're like, I don't know what to do. So I think and the training is starting, like it is out there. It's colleges, I think, getting the funding for it, to being able to send their coaches to do this and to have people come out. So I think that is so important. We're trying to get some laws passed on that. we're super passionate about that as well. So besides our own Katie Meyer's Law, I would love to see more of that in place. I could talk for a really long time on some of this stuff. So I'm just going to end it with that, I think, because you guys covered so much. And I am so appreciative and grateful to be here. You guys just, I think everybody hit on something a little different and so needed. So thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to see if any last words from anyone before we close up. And this has been a great time. I can't believe it's been an hour already. Any last words from anyone before we close?
Yeah, I just was gonna share one comment, just beyond mental health. I always think it's crucial to remember having fun in the sport. I always think, what's the point of competing if you're not really enjoying that process? I think we can always get caught up in the competitive drive and lose sight of like why we fell in love in the sport in the first place. So just want to encourage everyone, maintain that competitive energy. Yes, it's important, but ultimately being yourself and having fun should also be a priority up there. So when you're not able to embrace who you truly are and enjoy what you're doing, it not only makes you stronger mentally, but also helps you perform at your best. So yeah.
Hello?
I would to say to be your own advocate. You are your best advocate. So speak up when you can. And I always say comparison is the thief of joy. Focus on your own lane, your own journey. You will get there wherever that is. And yeah, enjoy sports. Like Bella said, it's supposed to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everyone. I tapped out. I don't know what happened. Technology. Thank you, everyone, for attending today and for those who are listening. So thank you. And we will continue to celebrate each other and support. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you all.
you.
Thank you. Bye.